once more. Should we start with the Daily Telegraph showing a Trump to take Strait by force? Strait of Hormuz, of course, which is that pinch point that's stopping oil and gas ships getting through.
Yeah, so this is the news that Trump is sending Marines in to reopen the Strait as concerns grow that rising oil prices could spark a global recession. I think it's worth pointing out that just a week ago, Trump said that the crews of tankers should just show some guts and that there was nothing to be afraid of because they have no navy, we have sunk all their ships. So a bit of a turnaround now that he's suggesting we need a warship with an expeditionary unit. And the concern is that this could lead to boots on the ground in Iraq, and obviously then that there could be far higher casualties as a result of this. But not to worry, Pete Hegseth, the US Defence Secretary, said, you don't need to worry about the Strait, it's something we are dealing with. But obviously this is an incredibly fast-evolving situation. Sources in America are saying that this simply wasn't thought about enough before the action was taken. I mean, I think most people, regardless of their general knowledge or ignorance of world affairs, could probably have figured out that there would be some pretty negative consequences for all of us of this, illegal striking of Iran.
And I think Pete Hegseth pushed back on that and said, well, of course, we've thought about it. And as you say, says that it's in hand. And they have talked about when militarily possible, they want to escort ships through the Straits of Hormuz, because clearly the pressure is on, isn't it? I mean, the inflationary pressure globally of higher oil prices is really going to be felt by Donald Trump.
Massively. When you look at that this vital passageway, you have 20% of the world's oil goes through that. And we're talking, effectively means 12 million barrels of oil a day can't get through. And eventually that has knock-on effects for whether people can fill up their cars, whether airlines put up prices for passengers, because jet fuel will go up. And then the inflationary pressures that trigger through over days and weeks and months mean it's costly and everything is more expensive for consumers when they go to the high street. So what we may be seeing thousands of miles away does have a real-world impact here.
It's interesting, Shona, isn't it? You said, one thing Trump said, well, we've decimated their navy, they're not a threat. But you only have to look at the way the Houthis operated on the other side of that peninsula to know that a few missiles can cause real problems for shipping. And I think more than a dozen ships have already been hit in that region.
Yeah,
this
isn't some theoretical threat, and this isn't, as Trump previously suggested, sort of lily-livered behaviour, or just barge your way through. It's really not as simple as that, as evidenced by the fact that they are having to now escort the tankers.
And you talk, Ryan, about the pressures being felt domestically around the world, but in the UK, Rachel Reeves obviously kind of desperately doing her sums. The Mail picks up on this and the pressures that have been put on people filling up their cars, and she's trying to do something about it.
Yeah, she called in the petrol retailers, the energy suppliers, the fuel operators yesterday to Downing Street. It's her and Ed Miliband. I mean, there had been, I think the relationship between the two parties in the past week has actually been quite tense, because you had Rachel Reeves talking about price gouging and making sure that these companies don't make excess profits at this time. And I think the Petrol Retailers Association had called this inflammatory language, and I think the knock-on effect of that had been maybe some abuse to staff in forecourt. So there was one moment yesterday where it looked like this big summit could have been called off, but actually it went ahead. But as the Mail says here, Rachel Reeves is set to rake in an extra £1 billion. That's mainly because the cost of the diesel, petrol is going up, and the tax that she will take. That then leads to the question later on this year, where you have this 5p fuel duty discount, whether she can maintain that. I think the political pressure will be that will carry on. Now, I think they're going to wait probably until maybe the summer to make that decision.
And that's reasonable, isn't it? Because we don't know how long the war's going to go on. We don't know how high prices are going to go. They're kind of saying they're keeping it under review. Fair enough to make the decision later down the line?
I think so. I think, there's going to be lots of, commentators and, opposition MPs saying, do it now. Well, do you really have to intervene now if the war could end in 3 days' time? Do you have to then intervene on energy bills?
But she has more leeway, doesn't she? Like you pointed out, making £1 billion more from soaring price of petrol. weren't tax receipts up at the start of the year as well? So they're effectively running a little bit of a surplus at the moment.
Yeah, things are looking slightly better. It was interesting because you had that spring statement and that forecast. The line from the government was, you know, things are getting better, stick with the plan. That was obviously all before the Middle East crisis. But she has got a little bit more headroom. She could be getting extra tax receipts in from this. So there is a little bit more money for that support.
By the way, also on that Mail page, we should just point out, Ryan, you're quite right, the war could end in 3 days, but at the same time, most people fear that World War III is on the horizon. Don't want to alarm you, but a poll found that 53% believe it is likely or very likely in the next decade, and military experts agree. Just leave that one hanging for a second. We'll switch, though, Shona, to talk about who the Mirror are calling the three amigos, which makes them sound fun and cuddly. Not really the case, though, is it?
Indeed not. And so this is the news. Yesterday we saw this picture with Jeffrey Epstein, the former Prince Andrew, and Peter Mandelson all in the one photo. Of course, the photo in itself does not provide evidence of any particular wrongdoing, but there's a bit of analysis here from the Mirror about where this picture came from, pointing out that it looks that it was either taken through a window or it's maybe a photo of a framed photo with a reflection. Now, they do say it's impossible to say for sure, but they think there could be a reflection of someone who looks a bit like Ghislaine Maxwell. And I think what's interesting to look at is why was this picture taken and why is it perhaps staged in the way that it is? The fact that Jeffrey Epstein is in his clothes and the other two are in that vulnerable sort of wearing their robes. Andrew doesn't look particularly happy about the picture being taken. Peter Mandelson looks comfortable. But even these American flag mugs on the table, I wouldn't necessarily think that this is just a snap of some friends hanging out. Obviously, there's a lot of belief that what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, apart from the appalling sex crimes, was documenting and creating records, including compromising records. So I think it would serve the interests of Epstein and Maxwell and anyone else in their ring to have this kind of photo in their possession.
Yeah, compromat.
And Ryan, the fact that this picture, which is being analysed inside the paper here, is actually on a lot of the front pages this morning, is going to be uncomfortable for the government again, isn't it? When Keir Starmer is under pressure over his appointment to Peter Mandelson as US ambassador, and for him, he keeps hoping that the issue has gone away, and then more photos like this come up.
Yeah, I mean, this story, you know, Peter Mandelson, he left his position as US ambassador last September, and I think you're just going to get this drip effect over several months. And every single time, you know, we had the first batch of documents released this week, we're going to have another batch of WhatsApp messages, emails coming out in the next coming months. And every single time, Keir Starmer's judgment will be questioned. And as that coincides with things like the May elections, he's going to come under even more pressure, you know, when it comes to holding on to his job.
So in and of itself, is the issue of the appointment to Peter Mandelson enough to bring down Keir Starmer, do you think? Or do you think it's a cumulative pressure with the elections coming up?
I think he can hold on to it. He can hold on to his job, but it just takes one cabinet minister to go over the top and make that big statement, or someone like Angela Rayner to do it. I think the bonus thing, or we've got the Middle East war going on. Which candidate, which contender will want to take that on now? And what would it look like if there's a contest, a 3-month Labour contest during this? I think that is the problem.
Yeah, context is everything at the moment, isn't it, in terms of any potential challenges. Should we talk, Shona, about Eric Cantona? Those are words I wasn't expecting to say this morning. But
well, the rest of the sentence is quite surprising as well. Yeah. Eric Cantona's new album.
Yeah, Legends. They're calling it zany record in your paper, The Sun, Ryan. Talk me through Eric Cantona's debut album.
Well, I don't want to be too critical and call it zany, because if you take the lyrics of any songs out of context, they might seem quite zany. But something's being made of the fact that one of the lyrics is, "Hey birdie, light a good cigar, you're on Freedom Boulevard." And this is being tied into the quote from 1995, if we can cast our minds back to when he said, "When the seagulls follow the trawler, it is because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea." So he has always been a poet, and I think it's maybe a bit sarky that they say fans may be left scratching their heads as the album is filled with philosophical lyrics. Are they implying that football fans are not also interested in philosophy and philosophical lyrics? I'm sure that won't go over the heads of them all.
No, that's true. Although, to be honest, I'm still scratching my head about the sardines and the trawler. I can't remember what that was referring to.
You know,
I think that's quite right.
I think philosophy is a very subjective thing. So, but you know, they've also. I mean, how can a paper not include that picture of that kung fu kick at the bottom right there? I think that was against Palace fan, wasn't it? Way back when. He's nothing if not a fascinating character, Eric Cantona. I mean, really is. But this is slightly confounding, Ryan.
Yeah, he's done, you know, since his, fantastic football career. He's curated, art galleries. He appeared in a Liam Gallagher video as well. He's a fantastic footballing artist, and he's man of many skills, and you can tell I'm clearly a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, any excuse to have a headline with the ooh-ah. I mean, he's more used to being sung about than singing himself.
Should we treat you to more lyrics? Look at my wings, catching the winds. I'll see you there. I can't really imagine singing along to that, but we have to hear the tune.
I think you're absolutely right, though. Any lyrics taken out of context can sound, less good.
You're being very kind.
I am.
I mean, I could recite Champagne Supernova.
I'm giving him the
sound
benefit of the doubt.
sound like Shakespeare.
Let's move on to a story about spiders and how actually they're good for your nerves rather than bad for your nerves.
Yeah, no, this could be a really big breakthrough when it comes to sort of the NHS and sort of medical science, and the fact that spider silk could actually be used to repair damaged human nerves. So this could be done to sort of restore movement in paralysed limbs. And what these spiders tend to do, they tend to be put into a laboratory and sew that silk, and that silk is then used to sort of repair those damaged nerves. And there have been human trials of this. In Panama, there's been 5 people who've undertaken sort of this experiment or this sort of investigation, and where they had previously sort of numb nerves, it feels like there has been some improvement. Now, they are looking for some more funding. I think that at the moment they've got £3.5 million of funding. They're looking for this extra £10 million, but that could be something, a cheap investment for what the dividends could literally sow, in the years to come.
Doesn't spider silk have the highest tensile strength in nature?
Amazing. Did you just know that?
Did you just know that off the top of your head?
I might have made that up, but pretty sure it has. I mean, we always hear about it. People say it's 50 times stronger than steel, but it's incredible material, evidently.
I'm just slightly concerned. I hope no one's going to try and break these 30 spiders out of the lab. I don't know if animal rights people are OK with this. I think they're fine.
They're battery spiders.
I think they're just doing what they want to do. But I actually would like to see even more spiders, which is unusual for me, because they've all got names. One of them, they've not been interviewed, but they're called Annette, and they're pictured here. And I like the idea of these 30 spiders. I know. Is one of them called, something to do with webs? I'd love to know all their names. That's the only thing missing from this story, but I love it.
A spider called Annette is actually a bonus track on the Cantona album.
Yeah, along with the sardines.
Yes.
So let's move to a story inside the Telegraph, finally. This is a story about a horse belonging to the late Queen.
Yes, this is the ultimate tribute to the late Queen. I don't know if you remember when the late Queen's coffin went down the Mall in Windsor, there was her pony, her beloved pony, that was stood there by the side, had a Hermes scarf draped over the pony, and one of the sort of loyal craftsmen has actually turned it into a rocking horse. So there is a nice sort of end to this sort of story, and the Queen, sort of the ultimate tribute to the Queen, and sort of the craftsmanship that shows.
It is interesting, isn't it? It's been a while that King Charles has been on the throne now, but the legacy of the late Queen still looms so large, especially with all the other discussion we're having, and people will be wondering what she would think about this. But I think the fondness for her Shona really shows through this kind of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, this man said that he broke down in tears when he saw the pony, and that was the moment that he thought, I must make a rocking horse of Emma. What I would like to see, just as I'd like to see all the spiders, is this whole stable of rocking horses, because he's already made 6.
Really?
And apparently they've been passed down through the family when the children are the right age. I hope they've not pulled any manes out. I know rocking horses can be vulnerable when you let children have them rather than just display them. But it's good to know they are actually being used. But yeah, it'd be fabulous to see them all side by side.
Yeah, it really would.
Yeah, and great craftsmanship as well. We're out of time, but we'll see you again in the next hour. Thanks very much indeed, and all the top stories coming on.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?